And now it's time to enter the lair with this lady.
It's cut back to 2 the difference. Ebzery with the reply.
Ebzery looking for 3 and makes it count.
Forces the turnover. Ebzery completes a perfect play for Perth.
Yeah, she is a veteran of more than 300 WNBL games, 2 Olympics, a World Cup, multiple All-WNBL first teams, and multiple Perth Lynx MVP awards. Katie Ebzery, welcome to the Dribble Podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Now, it's been 5 months since you announced your retirement, 7 months since you last played with that Olympics. What's it like being a normal human being again?
It's been really great. I've kind of managed to go straight into some full-time work pretty much after home quarantine after Tokyo. So, I've made that transition pretty well as I've been pretty busy with a new teaching position. So, no, it's been nice to have some weekends not in a basketball stadium. So I'm really enjoying it at the moment for sure.
So what sort of teaching are you doing? High school, primary school? What's your class? What do you do?
High school PE, so theory and the practical side of it as well.
And how do you go being the one in charge of things as opposed to being told what to do by the coach? Are they as disruptive and annoying as what coaches probably think of players?
I guess to some extent it is a bit different being in charge, I guess, but I quite like it. I like that we do, a range of different sports and, the kids always get involved in PE, whether it's prac. I also like all the theory content we cover as well. So it's been really enjoyable and, there's some challenges. Of course, but for the most part, it's pretty. Yeah, it's been a really good period of time.
And do they know who you are, or are you a teacher? Do they actually understand that they've got a dual Olympian teaching them PE?
I guess it seeps through sometimes. So they've slowly started to pick up that basketball was kind of what I did in the past and Tokyo. So occasionally I get some questions about it. I didn't really come out and tell them directly, but they're starting to get the idea now.
Yeah, even listening to you now, your voice sounds different to when you're a player. Like you're an intense and dedicated and professional athlete, as professional as an athlete I reckon I've ever seen. The amount of times I'd be at the basketball centre and doing an interview or Wildcats training or something, and you'd be there by yourself working on your craft, making sure that you were absolutely prepared was just amazing. It stood out. And then in Sydney, when you were up there for preparing for the Olympics, it was just you. Like, how hard was it being just you when you build up to those Olympics and just you sometimes on court when you were preparing for any sort of situation? What was it like doing that sort of stuff so intensely for so long?
Yeah, I mean, it was a part of my process. I needed to be confident in my preparation. And so that meant for me, getting up extra shots multiple times a week or just taking that time to do the extra stuff to make sure that when I was on court, it was all muscle memory and I could, call on those things I'd already practiced. So it, on reflection, a lot of reflection after retiring, obviously, those moments are they can be particularly difficult. And I guess over, a 15-year career, those types of things just got harder and harder as the years went on. The motivation to do those things, it takes a lot to remain that motivated and engaged and to do all those extra kind of sessions and to make sure that you're the best possible player you can be when you step on the court. So, definitely by the end of it and training basically on my own before Tokyo was super draining and obviously, really contributed to just knowing that motivation had really been lowered for me and I couldn't kind of put that same effort into it as I had for most of my career. So, yeah.
So was it easy to switch off once you decided in your own head that you were retired, which was, I think a couple of months before you announced you were retiring, but once you knew, could you switch off or did you take a long time to wind down into being a bit more like the rest of society?
Yeah, I mean, it took a while, but to be honest, I was pretty burnt out by the time, Tokyo finished. I just needed a rest. I hadn't done any exercise for probably 6 or 7 months post Tokyo, just because I literally just couldn't bring myself to do anything, which is so unusual for someone that's gone from being an elite athlete to not really having the motivation to do any exercise at all was interesting, but I needed to listen to my body at that stage. So no, it didn't take me long, but I think I was just at a point where my body needed some rest and my mind needed some rest as well. So I was quite happy to have the rest, to be honest.
When you retired, you wrote a fascinating column for Players Voice where you really opened up about yourself and said, I wish I'd been kinder to myself throughout your career. And I reckon a lot of people are like that. Everyone's hard on themselves when they're playing. How easy was it for you to finally get that out of yourself, or was it really difficult to write?
Oh, it was very difficult. Very difficult to write. Well, probably not difficult to write. That came quite easy, but actually difficult to share it, I guess. As I said, there's, been a lot of reflection probably in this last, 12 to 18 months of my career. And it was somewhat healing to be able to put that together. And I just wanted to share it in hope that it would provide some vocabulary for other people that might be going through similar things. I know, these are only things I've kind of come to terms with in the last few years of my career. So if it could help someone that's just starting out or kind of halfway through their career to kind of notice some habits and make some changes a bit earlier, that was definitely kind of the goal with sharing that story, for sure.
It was really interesting the past 4 games that the Lynx have had over here being home games, and we haven't seen the Lynx at home for 2 years before that. But they were forming a small circle in the middle of the court pre-game, and Taya Burrows goes in the middle, and they all push her around and treat her like a rag doll and have a bit of a muck around and a bit of a fun with it. And it's not what we've seen from a lot of sports over the years, where the intensity and the mental preparation has to be, you need to be switched on the whole time. How have you found the change in mental preparation and the enjoyment that people want to bring to the game before the matches to try to relax them a bit more? Was that something you were able to embrace, or did you find that as strange as what a lot of people like myself have found, that it's not necessarily what we were trained to do?
I think people, you do your preparation. I think there's definitely a place for, those moments where you can just release the stress a little bit. You don't want to be too heightened or stressed going into an already stressful environment. So, I think finding ways to make sure there's enjoyment in the basketball and a bit of fun, because it's still meant to be fun, even though, it's a professional sport. I think just finding those little moments where you can have that is really important, whether it's in training or at the beginning of a game before a really intense kind of battle on court. I think it's really important and just kind of helps people level out a little bit before going into intense situations. It doesn't have to be always heightened, there can be a real balance. And I think sports are starting to realise it can't be intense 100% of the time. There needs to be better balance to help individuals be able to cope with some of the stressful situations they face.
Yeah, talk about stress. I still can't get my head around the fact that you were 15 years of old when you left home and moved to Canberra to go to the Australian Institute of Sport. I've got a 14-year-old daughter at home, and there's no way known she'd be leaving home to go anywhere outside of WA, maybe not even down the road. You're supposed to be working at Coles or Macca's at that age. Does it blow your mind that you were doing that now when you look back?
Yeah, in hindsight, as I said, there's been lots of reflection. It does. And believe me, my parents didn't want me to go. I was just adamant, and I believed that opportunity might not happen again if I said no. So the consequences were too big for me to possibly say no. Even though I definitely wasn't ready or mature enough to have that experience or move away from home. Yeah, but it's definitely such a hard, when a carrot like that is dangled in front of you, it's really hard to say no to. And my parents supported me in my ability to want to do that. And obviously led to, some of my experiences as well. So, but in hindsight, I definitely at 15 wasn't ready to go do that and move away and try and compete for a WNBL spot every week. It was a bit crazy, to be honest.
But as you said, it worked out because you went to 2 Olympics, which not many people can say they did. How do you compare the highlight of going to the Olympics and the team not necessarily having the success that you wanted from a medal side of things to winning that silver medal at the World Cup? Like, one thing is you got the medal to show for it. The other thing is probably rated higher in everyone's own minds about just going there. Like, what do you look back on with the fondest memory?
I mean, definitely that, going to an Olympics is a massive deal for sure. I think the special thing about that World Cup and the silver medal was just how well we played. Like, we gelled so well that tournament. We had an amazing preparation, which is a massive key, obviously. And to beat Spain in Spain in a semi-final was obviously, the ultimate. So it was such a stressful situation. The way we played really great defense, and our offense just kind of flowed from that as well. So, yeah, it was a very memorable experience. Obviously, silver medal is always going to be memorable, but the way we played and the way we got into that final was pretty special and memorable as well.
Luck, I don't reckon, has been on your side from a WNBL perspective. You decided you wanted to have 1 year in Russia to experience what it was like to play in Europe, and the year you left the Sydney Uni Flames, they went and won the championship, and now you've retired and the Lynx are in a good position to challenge for a championship as well. Do you look at it all and go, oh, yeah, 1 more year, could I have got through? They were forming a pretty good team as you started to announce your retirement. Like, do you have any thoughts at all, any pings of going, I wish I'd waited a little bit longer and maybe tried to get 1 more year out of myself to win one?
Oh, look, no, I didn't have it in me. And I had been having those conversations for quite a while before, way before the start of this season. So, yeah, I obviously they're doing really well. I thought we had really made some good foundations in that hub season as well. And obviously, we had a couple of people pull out of that season and we could have been much different than what we ended up. But it is what it is. Yeah, timing hasn't always been great, but I've been able to achieve some other things, and ultimately, a WNBL championship wasn't one of them, but I'm quite happy and satisfied with what I got out of my career.
I reckon most people will be quite happy and satisfied with a couple of Olympics and a World Cup silver medal. And as we said, all the other individual accolades that you managed to achieve. Well, the Lynx are going very, very well at the moment, although they had an up and down period during their stay at home. So if we go to the Dribble Podcast MVP votes from the last couple of games, from the match against Adelaide, it was 1 vote Marina Mabry for 17 points from only 15 minutes on court, 2 votes to Lauren Scherf for 16 points, 7 rebounds and 1 block, and 3 votes to Sammy Whitcomb with 18 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists and 4 steals. And in the Canberra game, it would have been nice to have given Jackie Young all 6 votes, but that's not the system we have in place. So it was 1 vote to Alex Chibatoni, 2 votes to Marina Mabry, and 3 votes to Jackie Young, 36 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists and 3 steals. It was amazing, those 36 points. She absolutely dominated. Now, let's see how good your memory is, Katie, because we've seen some good performances this year. If I say 22 points, 15 assists, 7 rebounds and 1 steal, do you remember the game you did that for Perth?
I believe it was a home game.
Yes, it was.
Possibly against Adelaide, because I remember Nicole Seacamp got quite a few assists in that one as well, which is a bit crazy.
Yeah, it was. It was Adelaide in October 2019. That's the best game I ever saw you play live, like 22 points and 15 assists. Like, when you got on a roll, like, you were able to do so much in games. You could play so many different roles, so many different positions and do so many things. When you get in a role like that sort of game, what's it like?
Oh, it seems like everything you do just turns to gold sometimes, like whether it's shooting and all the little ones that are 50-50, they all go in. All the iffy passes that might get deflected one game, that game it goes straight to hands and then they're able to put the basket in, which is obviously the big factor of getting an assist is the basket needs to go in as well, right? So those games, they're fun. You're just in a bit of a state of flow, and everything's kind of going your way essentially, rather than it kind of rolling the other way. It's just one of those games sometimes.
Well, that 15 assists is the franchise record for the Lynx, and no one else has them even in double figures. So it shows how dominant you were that game. We mentioned that you're in Sydney. Are you dry? Are you okay up there?
Yes, it's been dry the last few days, which is good. So, yeah, there's a fair bit of rain in a short amount of time, but it's all drying out, thank goodness.
And what about the family in Newcastle? Has that been affected up there?
They're all good. My dad's from a place called Kyogle up near Lismore in northern New South Wales, so he has quite a few friends affected by the floods up there, unfortunately. So, yeah, we know people in different circumstances. So, yeah, if anyone is able to help out with the flood appeals and donations and stuff like that, it's all obviously going to a really worthy cause.
Now, you're a very proud Newcastle girl, and you're very proud of playing against your sister a couple of years ago as well. I made you cry when I interviewed you about that, which was rather unusual at the time, given how you weren't prepared for that. But can you see yourself teaming up and playing together at any point, going back to Newcastle and having some games, or are you well and truly done from that perspective as well?
I mean, I'll never say never. At the moment, I'm definitely not playing for the foreseeable future. But who knows in the coming years what will happen, and I'm still really close to Newcastle, and my sister's there as well, obviously. So we'll never say never. It's always nice. I wasn't able to play with her or against her too many times just because of a bit of an age gap. So whenever and if ever we get the chance, we'll definitely see if we can make it happen.
And the Lynx are going to round out their season with games against Sydney and then followed by 2 in Townsville. If they finish on top, that will mean that they will fly back from Townsville on the Monday and play on the Wednesday. Would that be pretty brutal? Would that be difficult to do, getting back from that trip from Townsville for only a Wednesday game? Or do you think that they might push to try to get that game on a Thursday if it works out? What do you think would be the best from an athletic point of view?
The trip to Townsville is always pretty brutal, and the trip home. So anything you can kind of do to extend that period in between is obviously ideal. But depends obviously how the girls are feeling and how they pull up from that game as well. So all kind of depends on what the game's like, to be honest.
And I've asked several former Lynx players this in recent weeks. What would it mean to you if they won it?
It would be great. It's been a little while since the Lynx have won. When was the last time?
1992.
Yeah. So wow, it would be really cool. As I said, they've been so close over the last few years, for them to win, it would obviously be great. And having played with a lot of them last season, it will be really nice to see them have that success, and head coach Ryan Petrick and everyone involved in the club as well. They've obviously put a lot into it over the last few years, and it would be a worthy moment for them to celebrate for sure.
And just finally, we have a segment on the Dribble Podcast called This or That. Just jump to one side of the fence on a question, and we saw the bizarre scenario on Monday of Oklahoma City and Memphis walking out into court in the NBA in the same coloured uniforms. White is a fairly standard go-to for most sports these days as an alternate option. Do you think white is the good way to go and just have everyone wearing white, or should everyone just find a second colour and we can make sure we don't clash that way?
Yeah, everyone just needs to have their ideal colour, like their own colour, and then white is for, the rarity rather than being the most common option for sure. Like there just needs to be their own colours, and then white needs to be non-existent, I think.
It's so much better that way, I reckon. You can turn on any game and know who's playing, as opposed to having to figure out who's actually out on court, because every single team who goes away is wearing white. It never made sense to me. Well, it will be a clash again this week. It'll be a clash of Katie's former teams, with the Lynx playing the Sydney Flames, and they're off to Townsville, as I said, for 2 games to round out their season. So we wish them luck in those final matches. Well, thanks for joining us, Katie. You were an absolute star. We've spoken many times in many places around the world while you were playing, and it's great to hear that your life is going so well for you in Sydney in retirement.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, that's it for the Dribble Podcast this week. Keep logging on to thewest.com.au for all your basketball news and pick up your copy of The West Australian. Thanks to Samantha Rogers for all her production.